What's up, guys? It's Jill. It's Thursday. Yeah, it's a Thursday, the 20th of November, and I know that I do this every video. I just want to be sure that I have the right date and the right time because I think moving forward it's going to be important to timestamp things. Wow. So, right now we are in collective chaos again, right? Of course we are, because it's always the narrative shift before the big holidays. I made a video 2 days ago talking about the Epstein files, and today I was reminded in my social media posts that, 4 years ago this week, or I think it was next week, we were going to have the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Is that how you say her name? So the timing is always like spot on, right? To create like collective chaos and grief during times when people will be amongst their family so that you can bicker and argue and have things to talk about. It is intentional, guys. It is a game. So let's look at the game today because it is such a huge time right now. Yesterday, the CDC officially changed their .gov website regarding vaccines and autism, and they said we're not going to rule out that it's a possibility. Okay, and in September there was a landmark case where parents, provided irrefutable evidence that their child had encephalitis that was caused by a vaccine, and their daughter died of what they had been told was SIDS, and now we know that it was swelling of the child's brain that caused her death. That is huge. The fact that that made it through and that they have officially won that case is astronomical, because how many parents are told, oh, it was just SIDS. There is no unexplainable death of a newborn. Okay. At the same time that this is happening, today the Department of Education was gutted. A lot of K-12 education was handed to the Department of Labor. And some very strange things happened, like nursing as a profession was taken off of the list for professional degrees covered under student loans. Just 10 years ago in New York State, it was decided that having professional nurses with higher education, provided more sound care and had better morbidity outcomes than just regular nurses or healthcare staff. So this is going to be a very interesting time moving forward. Also today, it was announced that a lot of birthing centers across the country are closing. Now, the reason that they're closing is because the insurances are astronomical right now. Malpractice insurances are obnoxiously high, and people can't afford to be on their own. And I've said that before. Most doctors now are Medicaid doctors. Number one, because everyone is being forced to government insurances, but number two, because they can't afford the insurances to go out on their own. That is a rigged game. A rigged game. I talked about that the other day, that the reading and comprehension levels in our country are also devastating right now. College freshmen are reading at a 7th grade level. Most Americans are reading at a 6th grade level. But that is detrimental when you go to the doctors and they hand you literature on procedures, they hand you literature to take home on your self-care, they hand you literature on the vaccines that you or your child are receiving, because those forms are written at about an 11th grade level. When you vote in local and local and county, nationwide elections, when you're reading bills that are being presented, those are usually written at a grade 18. That's on par with above a bachelor's degree, friends. So when we have the majority of our people reading at a sixth grade level, it is extremely dangerous because it means that a lot of people don't know what's going on and they can't comprehend what's moving around them unless it's explained to them in a clear and concise, unbiased manner. And most people who are writing bills are trying to swing you to their side, right? A lot of you know that I was called to be a doula in 2020. And since that time, my stance on public education and vaccines has gone completely radical. I don't believe in K 12 public education anymore. And not for the reason of even the education that's being handed out, even though that's part of it, but a lot of it is behaviors, morals, values. 2 weeks ago tomorrow, so 2 weeks ago on a Friday, I think it was the 7th of November, I went to the local community college and I asked them if I could present Intro to Holistic Living. And they said, well, why would we present that to kids? And I said, well, because the way that we show up in the world, right, is how we learn and how we interact with others. It's the way in which we maintain information. It's the way we share information. And I was devastated when I had initially presented that not as let's give it to the students, but maybe let's put it out as adult education. And the woman running adult education said, well, we're really focused on technical and career skills right now. The morals and the values that we carry with us and the way in which we interact with other people, the language that we use when we speak with other people, and the way that we self-regulate when things maybe are in chaos or things aren't going our way are absolutely life skills. They're absolutely business skills. When I left that conversation, I went to the main desk, and the young girl working there looked to be in her early 20s. So I asked her out of curiosity while she was tidying up some things. I said, is this like a work-study program, or do you work here? And she was so taken back to think that I thought that she was on a work-study program. And she said, no, I work for the college. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, well, actually, the woman who I wanted to speak to, I think she was in financial aid, she said she's doing something else, but I work in that office too. I can help you. So she's looking up my information. Now, she couldn't find the answer that I wanted specifically, so she had to call someone else. So while she's on the phone calling someone else, she did the thing. She did the thing that is why I wanted to teach the Intro to Holistic Living and the self-control and the balance. She was on the phone, she had my information on her screen, and then she opened her phone and read her personal text messages. And I went, there it is, friends. There it is. That is exactly it. What was so pressing, that she had to be in her phone, especially while she was customer facing? I was standing right there. Okay. So, I've been making a lot of these videos for the past couple of years now on things that I want to do, like homeschool co-ops and community groups, and I've been putting out classes. Since I opened this space at the Phoenix, it was April of 2025. Okay, I've spent the last 7-8 months putting together offerings for the community. I've really tried to be solution focused, right? So I did recovery yoga on Sunday mornings, and I did, I think, 6 weeks, and I got one person 2 times, and they were different people. Okay. I did after school teen hang hours. Actually, in the summer, in July, I did evening team hang hours, and we did a movie night, and we did game night, and I did get a couple of kids. The most I had at one time, I think, was 5. And I made a video about that, about the kids that are coming through my door. Because it was exactly what it was supposed to be. It was the kids that had been in foster care. It was the kids that had self-harm scars. It was the kids that were questioning their gender binary or their sexuality. And I was so excited about it. And then school went back, and that slowly faded. And I don't really know why. And it could be because a lot of people don't agree with the things that I've been saying for a long time. But as we shift and change, as we see truths come to light, like, the fact that maybe vaccines do cause autism, because I know that's a big source of contention. People don't want to hear that. But as a doula, and as a person who watches infants come across that veil, when we're injecting them, friends, with, dead materials of diseases and different gendered fetal cells, okay, when we're injecting them with alcohols and metals, those things have to be filtered by their body. Now, their little liver and their little blood-brain barrier, their central nervous system, all of that is brand new. It's brand new. And we know that we can't detox metals from the brain. We know that we can't detox lead, and that's why it's so detrimental. We know that Alzheimer's is caused by metals in the brain that we don't know how to detox. So why would we think this was safe to put in this brand new, perfectly pure, sacred vessel? I'm really excited to see truths come to light there, and I know it's going to take a little while, but we'll get there. Okay, we will get there. Homeschooling is one of those things that's difficult because not everyone has the means to take their children on things like field trips, right? And to go explore things. And a lot of people have to work. A lot of people have to work multiple jobs, and I know that. Is there a one-size-fits-all solution for education? Absolutely not. But if you are privileged enough, if you have the resources to keep your kids home, if you are able and willing to teach your children morals, values, colors, numbers, shapes, those are formative things. Being able to sit still and focus is huge, and a lot of that comes from balanced parents, which is why I put together the conscious parenting class, and I offered that class twice. After it was offered at BOCES and we didn't get anybody, because I actually created that class for BOCES. They asked me to put that together, and it really focuses on ways that you can interact with your kids, and bedtimes and hygiene, and just things that maybe, are even beneficial to parents, because having that scheduling and having set bedtimes, having meal plans in place are beneficial to the family unit. And a family unit is even one of those things that is sometimes hard to find in our society. 2-parent homes, balanced homes where kids feel like they're safe and nurtured, and they're open to being, presented with new information, but they're also safe enough to ask questions and learn. A lot of our chaos in our society comes from fear and things that we don't understand. So if we don't understand how vaccines work, if we don't understand, everybody going, oh, trust the science. Well, I do trust the science. I trust that the central nervous system is fragile. I trust that the blood-brain barrier can't handle all those things, and that a new liver, when it's trying to process all of the bilirubin and all of the things that are in the body, can't also detox all of these poisons that we're putting in the system, right? That's science too. When we are better balanced as adults, the kids are going to be better balanced. But also, when we're more balanced, we're able to take in new information, and we're able to look at things from a different perspective, maybe a higher perspective or a third party perspective. Um, the way that we show up at work, the way that we deal with conflict, the way that we interact with one another, the language that we're using is all intertwined. And it's the reason that I have spent the past 8-10 years studying things like plant medicines and energy management and energy medicine. And, this, I'm currently reading this again. This is called the Ultramind Solution by Dr. Mark Hyman. Let me try that again, Dr. Mark Hyman. I think I used to know a kid named Mark Hyman, but that's where that came from. And Donna Eden. Donna Eden is huge on energy management. And I actually first came across Donna Eden probably like 5 years ago through a program through Mind Valley. So if you don't know, look up Vision at Mind Valley, and you can find him on YouTube. You can find it at Mind Valley. And they have a lot of courses on the self and overcoming the self, overcoming trauma, ways to use energy, the ways in which we create energy in the body, because all of that also comes from diet and exercise, right? And so one thing that I think we're going to hear now that the vaccine debate is really going to come to the fore is, well, now we don't trust the CDC. Well, should we ever have trusted the CDC? I mean, have you seen some of the things that we've passed here? We've known for a long time that vaccines can be very damaging. We have to look at how many children were maimed or killed in producing these vaccines to understand how dangerous vaccines are. But there was always a threshold where we were like, well, that's negligent, right? Negligible, just, okay, so that happened and we think we overrode that, and so now it's generally safe. Generally safe. But anytime that there's risk, friends, there has to be choice, okay? And a lot of people don't want to hear that, but there's always choice, just like with the drug use and the alcohol use, because those things are ramping up again. And the more that people start to feel caged in, they're going to ramp up more. And right now, the 5G surveillance is really also ramping up, okay? While things are crumbling, other things are being built out. And I talked about that in my video the other day too, that the technology is really coming very quickly. And again, a lot of it is rooted in fear. Our school district just said that they're going to be rolling out transportation GPS. So now you're going to know exactly where your child's bus is at the exact minute it's there. Is that necessary? Do you really think that's necessary? Do you think that maybe some of all this technology that has to be hosted by data centers is the reason that we can't afford to pay NYSEG and RG&E? It all runs hand in hand, friends. Today, I saw a commercial for children's sneakers. They were Skechers sneakers, and they actually have a pocket in the foot to put an air tag on your child. Now, if I can convince you to live in fear that something horrible might happen, okay, in collective consciousness, I've talked about this before, the thoughts that we hold collectively as a group are what creates the reality that we live in. So if you can get a lot of people to live in that kind of fear, then that's the kind of chaos that we're going to create. And I'm not appreciative of that, because I like to think that most humans, most of the time, are doing good, right? However, with ice running around, I don't know, if you have a little Mexican grandkid, maybe you should air tag them. Unfortunately, I'm not also a big fan of the air tags, because you know how I feel about 5G and the radiation and EMF frequencies and how they disconnect us from source, okay? If you're walking around with these devices on your wrists, the Bluetooth trackers, the Apple Watches, or AirTags in your shoes, we become very ungrounded. Now, when we become ungrounded, we also become off balance mentally. When you have kids who are overstimulated or who are already on the spectrum, and you start inundating their little feet, especially because the feet are so absorptive, right? Like they just bring in all of that information. They soak up everything. There is no filter on the skin, friends. That's gonna increase behaviors, irrational thinking, chaos. That is, again, that's science. That's physiology. It's the nervous system. I'm gonna put out Intro to Holistic Living again. I'm gonna run Conscious Parenting again. I'm not sure when. It'll probably be early December. Because I think it's important. I think that, I'm not trying to tell you how to live, but I can definitely say that there are tips in there that will help you to be able to overcome a lot of the chaos that we're going to move through as we move ahead. Okay? Better ways to center ourselves, diet, exercise, okay? All those things that keep us sane when the world seems to get insane. So be on the lookout for that. If you have thoughts on any of this, please chat with me. Let me know. I love you guys. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover today. I was going to list out here all of the things that I had done this year, like the creating plays and prenatal yoga and the teen yoga, but just know that they're going to come back, okay, because they have to. I had put the yoga on the back burner for a little while because people weren't coming, but maybe it has to come back. We do have a lot of local yoga studios. If you're interested in learning, reach out to some of them. Just Google it. They will all come up. There are a lot of teachers. Energy is real. If you don't vibe with me, you will probably vibe with someone, okay? But be open to understanding energy and open to opening yourself, because right now we're also in a space where we're clearing decades of trauma and misinformation, okay? And maybe not even decades, like centuries, okay? Let's go back to like slavery and colonization, because all of those things have led us to this separateness and this anger and this hurt that we're currently living in. And it's being manipulated against us to keep us in fear and to keep us separate. And that's not how humans are meant to live. Okay? So I love you guys, and I will talk to you later. Have a good weekend. See ya.